Then you're going to be studying marketing, strategy, etc. So it comes across this, Anjali, that what part of business management education topics do we refer to and apply it to a case to help us learn this? So Arpit, Ashu, Ashwin, all of you, Garima, Irshad, with the names that I can see, Nitin, Piyush, Khushbu, all of you, it is going to be absolutely splendid and wonderful to understand how we refer to case studies to basically because of three reasons. One is to look at how things are, how do we explain a phenomena, how do we explain a context, why this has happened. Second, a case study is a great learning for us to understand what determined a success of a firm, what determined a failure of a firm. And then we look at a case study to basically look at the application of the concepts that we study in our MBA program. So, ladies and gentlemen, very honestly, my areas of specialization being marketing, strategy, and international business, there are innumerable number of case studies that we've referred to, and these case studies are a fantastic platform on the basis of which we are able to decipher how organizations have moved from one step to another. For example, Anjali, I just want to highlight one thing. It's very interesting talking to you, Anjali. It is that some cases say a company has succeeded, but other companies are not succeeding. These are lessons to be learned. Some cases say that any organization today became very ambitious to do something, and in the process, they ended up having a failure. And that is a learning of a lesson. Never do things so haphazardly, so rapidly, so unconcerted efforts. Think about a logical problem, think about a situation, and then move on further. Arpit, am I clear? Okay. Bharti, Babita, Bhavna, are you able to hear me? Am I clear so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay, excellent. Bhavna, are you clear?
Yes, sir.
Excellent.
Yes, sir.
Great. Naman, Nitesh, are you clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm starting off a small presentation. Listen to me very carefully. I've got a couple of presentations, and I've also brought in for all of you, Garima, Irshad, Khushbu, Komal, about a Harvard Business School does the case study based learning. They've reinvented their management education, the way they teach the MBA courses to different participants. It's a case based. That means we don't start with theory. We start with a case and bring the theories back together. I'm not going to be doing that. I'm going to be doing the normal way, what you're doing. Understand the theory and apply it today to understand what case studies enable you to learn while you're studying for the MBA program. All right, so I've got a couple of presentations. One is the Harvard Business School case method. One is my own presentation, which I prepared. And one is one of the finest video recordings, which I could download. It's about 3-4 minutes. I'll share it with you. It really tells us how cases help and enrich our learning and teaching and academic journey at an institute. And also, ladies and gentlemen, I've got three cases. One is the Jet versus Indigo Airlines industry case. I've got a Euro Disney, a case study, how, the Euro Disney, which is in Florida, how they moved into Paris and what led to their failure. And I've got another interesting case study to say Levi Strauss, an organization like Levi Strauss, how they expanded their market presence in different countries. These are 3 or 4 cases which I'll be referring to. And that will make the learning and teaching and this entire workshop session brilliantly motivating and stimulating. All right, Bhavna, can I now move on to my presentation now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is my presentation. Uh, Sorry, can all of you see my screen?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Can all of you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
fantastic. Fantastic. Great stuff. Let me use my pointer. So this is what I call the case methodology workshop. And of course, the Institute of Information Technology and Management, and the date is 29 Jan 2021. Firstly, what is a case? Now let's understand this very carefully, all of you participants. What is a case? I've underlined this. A case is an activity or an event or a problem that contains a situation and includes the complexities you would encounter in the workplace. So, therefore, let's go one by one. A case is an activity, it could be an event, it could be a problem which relates to a situation and includes the complexities you would encounter in the workplace. So, any activity, event, or problem which is characterized in the workplace can be referred to as a case. Any activity, any event, any problem where it contains a situation and includes complexities, what you need to resolve at the workplace, is called a case. Cases are used to help you see how the complexities of real life influence decisions. Ladies and gentlemen, Babita, Anjali, please refer to this. Naman, Nitesh, the word is called decisions. So, cases, I'll just draw a line here to say cases are used to help you see how complex situations of real life influence decision making. So, this is what I call a case, an activity, event, or complexity in the workplace. And they are tried to use to refer to how the complexities of real life influence your decision making process. That is what I call a case. It's a real life situation. This is what has happened. This is the complexity of the situation. And in the basis of the complexity of the situation, you try and derive some decision engulfing the complexity. Now, what decision would you take? A decision which solves the complexities, a decision which helps you to come to a particular solution. That is what is meant by a case. And cases indicate, I've already discussed this with you, the factors. Cases indicate the factors that cause entity success or failure. All right. So, features of a case. What does case look like? It is taken from a real life. That means something which has actually happened. You prepare a case through extensive research. You hunt out for information. You try and look at a lot of aspects and try and find out about a case. It consists of many parts and it ends with problems and points for discussions. It consists of many parts. Sorry, I just want to ask you, Babita, Anjali, everyone, Nitesh, Naman, can you see the screen, please?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fantastic. Sorry, I'm just checking because everything has disappeared in front of me. I've got the big screen in front, so I want to make sure everyone has access to it. So, case has many parts. So, this is what it is. A case can be even 30, 40 pages. It consists of many parts, and each part ends with a problem. And for each of the problems, there are discussions. So, listen to my numbering here, features of a case. It is taken from a real life situation. One, it consists of many parts. Each part has a problem which you need to discuss. It includes information for the reader to identify the problems and then design solutions. So I'll just change my pointer marker here to make it even clearer, is that we need to have a solution. So case is taken from a real life It consists of many parts. Each part addresses a problem, and these problems are discussed further for designing solutions. So this is point number 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the features of a case. So earlier slide told me that that case is basically a real life situation which talks about complexities in an organization and also talks about factors which lead to success and failure of a company. But the features of a case, when you read through a case, you'll see a case is something which is live, real life. Something has happened. And it consists of many parts and it deals with problems. Each part has problem and you need to find out with discussions on the problems an optimal solution. That's the features of a case. So one is it's a real life situation. It consists of many parts. Each part consists of a problem which facilitates discussion. And for each of the problems, you try and design solutions. It is believable for the reader, the personality, the sequence of events, the problems, and the conflicts. So the case contains all this: the people involved, the events involved, the problems and difficulties which took place, the conflicts in the management which took place. These are some great learnings which you see in the features of a case. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so this is about a case in general. It is believable for a reader when you read a real life situation that it has many parts. Each part has a separate problem for discussion, and each of the problems we can find an amicable and pragmatic solution. So a reader in a case refers to many personalities, many events, many problems, many situations of conflicts. It could be. It depends on the nature of the case. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you all, ladies and gentlemen, Babita, Bhavna, Nitesh, Naman, Khushbu, all of you, Arpit, one of the greatest things you learn is a business case for a business. I'll change my ink again to give you more clarity. A business case simulates a real situation and has 3 characteristics. Here you go. It has 3 characteristics, a business case. One is it's a significant issue worth talking about. There's enough information on the basis of which you can reach a reasonable conclusion. But a case has a lot of characteristics and no stated conclusion, though. There's nothing definite about it. You have to find a conclusion to this. So, what is a business case? A business case is a situation, number one, which deals with a significant issue. Thirdly, it has a lot of information for which you need to find the solutions and conclusion. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've got a situation, I've got significant issues discussed in the case, situations and issues, and there is a lot of information in the case which helps me to derive conclusions. There is no stated conclusion, but a case automatically tells us where the company headed towards. What were the intentions of the company? What were the intentions? What they managed to realize? And then we come across to understand what emerges out of the case as a lesson. That means intended strategy, realized strategy, and the emergent strategy, which says what the organization intended to reach, accomplish, what they ended up accomplishing, what were the gaps in real life situation, and what strategy or action plans emerge over the pipeline. So this is what I'll just write it down for you so that you're thoroughly familiar with this. Intended realized, intended, realized, and emergent strategy. This is what you intended, this is what you achieved, these are the gaps, and therefore, what should you be doing? So, situation which has significant issues, and each of these issues have a lot of information on the basis of which you derive your conclusions. A case may also include irrelevant information. Not all information is relevant. So you need to make a note of this. A case may include a lot of irrelevant information at the same time. And a case may also have unstated information that the reader must infer. So you must do your search beyond a case to come out that you about a company or a situation. You may do your Google, or you can do some research, or you can refer to some articles or your internet website and Wikipedia, etc., or companies' websites or companies' history or articles written on it. You can go with information which is not stated in the case. And a case sometimes, though you formulated a case, not every information is equally vital. There's enough information to address issues for which you derive solutions and conclusions. But a case may also include irrelevant information, or it sometimes may have unstated information that the reader must infer. Fantastic. The types of cases. Now we come to the next part of the presentation, which says, what are the various types of cases that we come across in our lives? First, problems. What is a problem? A situation in which something important happened, but we don't know why. It's a problem. A company went through a problem, which is a situation. As I said, a case may have many parts, and each part represents a situation. And for each situation, we could debate and discuss and find a solution and conclusion. So, problems is a situation which a company encountered, but we don't know why it actually happened. The second part, the types of case, is something which makes you take a decision. A decision that must be made, which means in a case when you study situations, you come across not only why they happened, but you try and see what other options the firm had. What are the options the firm has to move from where it is today to where it intends to go to where what it intends to achieve in the long run? It's a decision making tool. So a problem is, what is the actual situation, why it happened, though you don't know why. We can go into details of that. And decisions is what the organization did and what decisions it really needs to take in terms of options and alternatives. The third thing about a case, the types of case, is an evaluation. Evaluation means you judge how effective was the decision that was taken, the act you performed, or whatever you performed, or the outcome which was achieved, how effective it was. I'm just putting it in. Let me change the ink here. It'll really help you to get a detailed clarity on this. What is the effectiveness of an action or an outcome? It helps you to evaluate. So a case gives rise to problems which you try to identify why. A case makes you take decisions on alternatives and options. A case looks at evaluations as to how the performance was, what is the outcome of a particular action or a decision. And fourthly, as I would again move back my pointer, my ink pointer, to address what really is the rules, and we really need to understand the rules, which is methods to analyze an area of business. So in a case, You look at problems. In a case, you look at solutions, how effective they were. In a case, you look at decision-making criteria, what decisions you take, what options you had. And it also talks about rules to analyze a particular area of business. All right, Nitesh, Naman, Khushbu, Arpit, all of you, is Babita, Bhavna, all of you okay so far? Can I proceed further?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes.
great stuff. Fantastic. So, how are you all liking it so far? Is it going fine? Hello? How is it going so far?
Sir, very interesting.
Okay, fantastic. So, why analyze cases? Well, now a big question is, why do we analyze a case in the first place? The most important thing is to improve one's ability to think logically and imaginatively. When you refer to a case, it makes you think harder. So, one is to improve one's ability to think. That's point number one. You analyze a case because it improves your ability to communicate. You can possibly communicate the essence of the case. So, one is it makes you think. Second, it makes you communicate. It provides an opportunity for experiential learning, especially when it involves group work. Now, ladies and gentlemen, all of you students, please remember one thing. A case can be done by one person, but it's normally a group-led activity. What is a group-led activity? A group-led activity is when you divide a case into many parts. That's called a group. And every student from a group tries to analyze a case. It provides an opportunity for experiential learning. What is experiential learning? Learning by doing. So when you analyze a case study, every student is part of a case study and they learn through experience. That is what is called experiential learning. And very importantly, every case has a reference of group work. You need to look at interpersonal group dynamics. The case is divided into many parts. Each member of a group looks at one part and comes out with solutions and comes out with ideas and comes out with problems. So it improves one's ability to think better, to communicate better, to learn better with group work dynamics. The second reason, the fifth reason, to develop analytical ability. You analyze situations and you come out with solutions. So this is point number 5. So A, you think better. B, you communicate better. C, it is a part of experiential learning. It involves group work. It develops your ability to come out with solutions. And very, very important, I'm writing it down here, ladies and gentlemen, in your entire MBA program for 2 years, is this point number 6. Your theoretical learnings, you apply this in real life situations. So this is what I call, why you do a case is to apply learnings. So we call this the application quotient. It's an application quotient. And lastly, it brings about an awareness of the constraints in decision making. So 7 things that you go home today to realize, why do we analyze a case? One is it makes you think better. Second, it makes you communicate better. Third, you're part of an experiential learning and group work and to develop ability to come out and find solutions. And next, it provides a ground for application of theoretical models, what you've learned in MBA in real life situations, and it brings you awareness of the constraints in decision making. So you think better, you communicate better, you learn better, there is solid group work, you come out with solutions, there's an application element involved in that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just putting down the three things which are vital for an MBA student in a case study. One is group work, I'm putting it in star. One is solution deciphering, and one is the application of theories. So, you work in a group, apply your theories, and come out with solutions. Again, another part, as I said here, the application quotient, I'll put this down here to integrate the knowledge and skills studied in business programs. So, in business management programs, whatever knowledge and skills that you acquired, integrate them together by referring to a case. Anjali, Babita, Bhavna, please understand, Nitesh, Khushbu, all of you, Arpit, it's extremely, extremely important. You gotta think, work in a group, come out with solutions, make use of the application quotient, and integrate all your learnings in a management program while you refer to a case. So, ladies and gentlemen, the workshop today, techniques and application, this is what we do in a case study. The technique for analyzing a case and applying the principles of case study analysis. So, what do we expect from students, which is in fact you all? What do we expect from you all at the end of the day? Well, we expect you to study the information in the case. Study all the information which is given, though I said earlier, not every information is important and vital, but equally important, all of you must understand that not every information is available also in the case. You may need to do more research. But the idea is study the case thoroughly once. Sit and relax, all of you, and study the case once. Study the information provided in each case. Then attempt to diagnose the nature of the problem. So, first, read the case. Second, diagnose what is the problem. What is the case study referring to? A problem which a company or a firm goes through. Then, thirdly, have a group discussion and search for alternative ways. Yeah, this is point three. Search for ways to resolve the problem. And then, lastly, recommend and justify the course of action which is likely to be most effective. So, next is your recommendation. And the justification should rely to a large extent on theoretical principles or theoretical context which you're studying during your course of your entire MBA program. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me repeat this once again. It's absolutely pivotal, important, and necessary for students to break it up into groups, look at particular sections of the case, study the information in depth, and then go back to interpersonal group work and look at the application quotients, whatever you've learned in different subjects, and bring them all together. So, one is study the information, identify the problems, search for alternatives to resolve the problems, and then make your final recommendation as to what is going to be the best course of action to make the entire solution be met most effectively. You can write this point down also, ladies and gentlemen, as I'm calling out. A, study the case in details, look at the problems, identify alternatives, and then make the recommendations of the best possible alternatives to resolve the problems and come out with a solution. The most important thing is your recommendation should be such that it proves to be effective in solving the problem. Yeah. I've put the arrows here so that you understand it properly and deeply in a different context. So I repeat, study the information, attempt to diagnose the nature of the problems, search for alternative ways of doing things, and then recommend to make sure which is the best possible course of action. So I've got problems, I've got various options to solve it, but look at the ones which is the best, you think, and why do you think so? And look at that course of action which can turn out to be the most effective. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, if you think there are three solutions, recommend the three, not a problem. But make sure those three are the most pivotal actions which are going to be the most effective in solving the problem. That's important for all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, this is exactly the what I just said. How to analyze a case. How do you analyze a case? So, firstly, get an overview of the case, identify the problems, determine the causes and consequences. So, if a company has succeeded, find out how it has succeeded. If a company has failed, find out why it has failed. Or a personality has failed, or an event has failed, anything it could be in a case, determine the causes and consequences. What led to this and what happened because it happened. That's called cause and consequence. Cause is what led to it, consequences after this. So what? What is the result of this? So gain an overview of the case, establish what happened, determine the causes and consequences, develop possible solutions, evaluate each of these solutions, and make your recommendations. I'll go back to my previous slide, which says you make those recommendations and courses of action which are going to be the most effective. So, this is your learning point. You make recommendations of those possible solutions which you think are going to have the best and the highest possible impact. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to be very honest, there's no Bible here to say that there is only one way and one solution. There could be multiple solutions, multiple ways of getting it. If there are 10 options, 10 could be tough to implement, but you could come out with three, four fantastic recommendations which have certain courses of action and which possibly will, if implemented successfully, would enable the firm to gain and secure and sustain competitive advantage in the marketplace. So when you study marketing, when you study business strategy, when you study international business, you come across a lot of cases and it says on what basis the company really succeeded and also in what cases the company actually led to a miserable failure. Therefore, what can be done for it? Right. No, now the steps of business case analysis, ladies and gentlemen, there are three steps. Firstly, what is the problem? What is the problem in the first place? What factors affect the problem? So, A, the problem, the factors causing it. How would your team solve the problem? That's a case. Like today, for example, Arpit, Anjali, all of you, Khushbu, Nitesh, Naman, all of you who are present here, we'll be doing some fantastic understanding of the COVID-19 pandemic. And because of this pandemic, a lot of organizations today came to a grinding halt, especially the tourism industry and the airlines industry, restaurant business had a major setback. So you know what the problem is, you know what caused it, that is the COVID-19. How would your team solve the problem? So what options would you give to your restaurants? What they should be doing so that they operate at some capacity to break even and start making profits? Do they do more takeaways? Do they change their menu? Do they change the sitting arrangements in the restaurants? Do they do more publicity and brand campaign? Do they come out with new menus? Do they come out with new ambience and a new setting altogether? Do they tie up with more of Swiggy and Zomato so that people can capture and notice them and make orders in which they can deliver? So these are steps in the business case analysis. Ladies and gentlemen, students, please understand this. The COVID-19 pandemic has hit the airlines. What should airlines be doing now? Do they operate at reduced capacity? Do they make the travel experience more memorable despite COVID? Is there any sort of stopgap that the airlines can offer? What route should they offer? What safety protocols then they bring in place? How do they make even traveling now safe for the passengers? Look at the tourism industry today. What can the tourism destinations do today to encourage tourism? Is it social distancing? Is it security protocols? Is it safety protocols? Is it the ambience of the place? Is it convenience for the people, tourists who are visiting? You must make it a safe place for tourists to visit. Only then will tourists pick up. These are fantastic analysis of a business case. What is the problem? What factors led to the problem? Like, for example, COVID-19. How would your team solve the problem? It's a great thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, remember one thing. One of the cases we realized today, most manufacturing companies in the COVID was on a shutdown. But how did they recoup because of HR and IT? It was COVID-19. So, what are the solutions? Fantastic HR practices to involve people, to provide them support from work from home, to improve on the infrastructure, to look at all possible support that they can give to the employees, and also improving the IT connectivity so that meetings and decision making and problem solving and major decisions are not stalled in the organization. You can keep interacting with your top bosses in different parts of the world and come out with finding solutions. Right. So this is the first step, gain an overview of the case, which is list down the major events, characters, organize information chronologically. Yeah. So students, please listen to this. Do it systematically, like one and then two, two follows one, then three follows two, four, and so forth. Do things chronologically. One step follows another. So list down the major events. So you break up the case into major parts, and each part is solutions and events. So break up each of the events and characters and organize the information chronologically. Sometimes a case can be very, very misleading because you don't know what comes first. So you need to read the case first and list down the events, characters, and organize them chronologically. Then establish what has happened or what is the business problem. That means who was responsible for the problem? What was the problem? What was the problem? Where did the problem happen? When did it happen? Summarize all this into one major business problem. Who, what, where, when. The four W's. Who, what, where, when. So therefore, look at the events, arrange them chronologically, then see what were the major problems, who caused it, what caused it, where did it happen, when did it happen, and why so. Once you've identified, once you've identified them beautifully as the situation may arise, once you've done that, you should think about the outcomes that you most hope to see for the company. That means you see what could be the consequences and therefore you present your solutions. This is what the company needs to do now, or change their strategy, or resurrect the process so that you're able to achieve the desired objectives, goals, and milestones. So you organize your events chronologically, think of what the problems are, and for each of the problems that you've identified about the students, think what are the most important solutions that you can recommend, and you something which you hope to see for the company. All right. Number three, So, as you said, first is determine the situations, determine the events on a chronological basis, then define what the problem is, why it has happened, the problem, determine that. Then you move in to say, determine the causes and issues. So, you come across a lot of problems the firm has encountered. What has caused this problem? And are there facts in the case which supports to say what are the causes? Try to separate the symptoms from the problems. What does this mean? Symptoms is signs, but the actual problems are actual problems. And rank, so as I said, when you start doing the case and organizing the issues and events chronologically, you'll come across a lot of problems. Rank the problems, which is the most difficult problem. What are the most difficult situations or events? So arrange them in terms, rank them in order. This is the most critical problem. The next is this, the next is this, the next is this. And then find out what caused the problem. Once you know what is the major problem and you've organized it chronologically, you try and deliver and derive possible solutions. So develop possible solutions to the problems. Different solutions may need to be considered depending upon whether the aim is to have prevented or to salvage or to avoid. These three are very important points. I'll just change the pointer. It's coming too light. So I'll use the red font. So when you know the causes for the problems, what happened, there could be multiple problems, then you're analyzing it in terms of ranking them in terms of criticality. And you, as you say, in the case, you break it up into many parts, organize your events chronologically, and then you say what caused the problem, what are the major problems the case is actually referred to of a company, and then try and find out what are the possible solutions to each of these problems. Now, there could be more than one solution. Look at all these solutions, but you choose the ones which you think are going to give you the best possible outcomes. You recommend those solutions which you feel will possibly give you the best possible outcomes. Those are the solutions that you really need to highlight upon and focus on. Now, the solutions which you need to consider depends on what your objectives are. If you want to prevent what has happened, if you want to correct the present situation, salvage means to provide relief to the present situation. And third is to make sure what has happened, make sure it doesn't happen again. So A, is it a solution to prevent? Second, it is to improve a present situation or to make sure it never happens again. So one is to improve on a situation and one is to make sure we are where we are, make sure the same problem doesn't happen again. So we prevent and avoid similar problems in the future. So you prevent what has happened and make sure it doesn't happen again in future. And thirdly, you try to improve on a present situation. That's the point number 1, 2, 3, depending on what you are actually aiming to achieve. You want to prevent what has actually happened. You want to salvage the situation. You want to avoid similar problems in the future. Now, ladies and gentlemen, fantastic. Evaluate these solutions. Consider each possible solution detailing exactly what they need to be done to implement it. Look, you've got many solutions. Look at the ones which you think are the best. And solutions will be in line with what you study in the course. You will have certain conceptual application of these theories which you study in various courses when you frame out your solutions. Now, ladies and gentlemen, apart from coming out with the best solutions, there could be constraints in implementing the solutions. Because you think these are the best solutions, of course, this would have the best outcomes, but there could be constraints. So make sure these constraints are overcome. You can recommend to the company. Think about the constraints or impediments that are likely to be difficult to implement any of the solutions. Constraints could be technology, people, budgets, finances. You don't have the resources. Now, if you don't have resources, how do you execute and implement the solutions which you're recommending? So, ladies and gentlemen, it is absolutely pivotal for you to understand, to evaluate many solutions. Consider each possible solution that you can think of. Consider each possible solution that you can think of. Solutions will be in line with the concepts learned, but make sure the constraints are removed. Lastly, very important, ladies and gentlemen, assign the weights and values to the solutions. Which are the ones you're going to take up in the solution and why? Now, this is a very important part which I've asked you to do. Link the solutions to the theory. That means you've come out with solutions correlated with the theories that you've learned in your courses. Make sure you do some thorough linkages of the solutions to the theory. Decide which management principles, theories, or models can be applied to generate answers to the questions. Fantastic. If it is marketing, do we apply the 4 P's of marketing that we've learned to make sure how we can improve on the 4 P's so that the company comes out of the reds? Fantastic. If it's something on strategy that we've learned, go ahead and tell us how really important this particular model has been in explaining what the solutions are and what the company ought to be doing in the immediate or the near future. So one is to link it up with management principles, theories, if it can be applied. And the next is apply the principles, theories, and determine what solutions are suggested by this application. Excellent. So you apply your principles and theories like you learn in organization behavior, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There could be situations where you can apply it. You can also study your motivation theories, which you study, or accounting principles, or organization behavior, management, my objectives, goal setting theory. You can study this and try and refer to a case and say how goal setting really works. You apply the principles and theories and determine what solutions are suggested by this application. So apply the theories and arrive at the solutions. So 1, 2, and 3. So I've got several theories, several solutions that I've come across. I integrated with the theories. I apply the theories to what the solutions are and make sure the solutions are implemented successfully. But again, ladies and gentlemen, just going back to the previous slide, think about the constraints. Is it technology? Is it people? Or is it budget? Assign weights and make sure you try and remove these problems. Lastly, when you've applied and everything, when you've done your recommendations and you've allocated resources and you remove constraints, recommend how can the solution be implemented. Now, this is a very important part in a case study. All of you should realize when you go into your management consulting business, if ever any of you take up consulting as a career, it is of vital importance for all of you to understand a broad view of the situation should be taken. Mention that it may be best to implement a relatively simple solution rather than complex solutions, unless the first ones didn't work out. So when you start off with implementing solutions or strategies and when you give your recommendations, give the ones which you think implement a relatively simple and inexpensive solution. Start with the very basics first, the ones which are easily executable. So let's look at the 6 steps once again. Study the case, look at the problem, look at what caused the problem. Fourth, develop many solutions, evaluate which are the best solutions. apply it to various theories, and then make your final recommendation. So, study the case, identify the problem, come out with multiple problems, rank your problems in order of importance, think of possible solutions, rank them out, make those recommendations which you think are easily executable. So study the case, identify the problems, identify what caused it, think of solutions, think of how these solutions relate to various management theories that you've studied, and then formulate your recommendations. Now, there could be cases without specific questions, which is say devise a framework that will enable the treatment of strategic issues based on a general framework. Now, there could be cases where there are no questions. It's just a case. It's just for you to left aside for you to understand what a particular case is all about. It's a case without any specific situation. Questions. But some cases have discussion questions. Like I'll be referring to a case today on Euro Disney, which talks about discussion questions. That means you study the case and you try and answer what lessons the case taught you and what are the discussion questions that you need to answer. A lot of cases are general cases. It makes you look at the success or failure and you could formulate your own answers with solutions. And the next is discussion questions, which says there are cases which are followed by questions which you need to answer. So, general framework. Read the case study 2 or 3 times. So, keep reading the case calmly, peacefully at your home 2 or 3 times at least. Then, when you're reading, make notes. Yeah. So, A, read. B, make notes. Identify the problems. Then look at solutions, selection of the best alternative solutions, and then make your recommendations. Fantastic. This is your general framework, which talks about read the case study 2 or 3 times, make notes, identify the problems, find out what are the best possible solutions, look at the constraints if they can be eradicated, eliminated, then correlate these solutions with the theories that you're studying, look at alternative solutions, and then conclusion where you make a presentation of the solution and say why this is the best in terms of effectiveness and outcome. Because at the end of the day, whatever solutions you're giving should have the most effective outcomes. I use this word, you can write it down. It is called effective outcomes. Now, there are some common errors in analyzing cases. That means you're not looking at the most important points, not correlating it with theory studied in the course. Well, that doesn't help. And you come across with very, very vague answers where you say, fire everyone, exit the market, sell off your business. Well, these are obvious answers, but you haven't given a solution here. Unless these are obvious ones. I mean, if there's no other way out, you say you can sell off, or if there's nothing you can do, fire all employees, or you exit the market. So don't jump into conclusions without trying to see if could be other options which the company can try out. Because always remember, ladies and gentlemen, one of the greatest things in management that we learn is patience. We must explore different ways of doing things innovatively. So some of the common errors is we don't look at the solutions properly. We don't link it with any business theories that we study. And we come across some haphazard decisions. Fire all employees, exit the market, sell off your business. These are some great, great mistakes that organizations normally end up doing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, That is the end of the first bit of the presentation. Any questions? Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Okay, Anjali, Ankur, Arpit, Babita, Bhavna, Nitesh, Piyush, Pooja, can you all raise your hand? I hope it's going fine. Just raise your hand instead of talking to actually say that everything is going fine. Okay, great. I just want to ask one more question. You can also raise your hand. Are you liking the session? Is it interesting and captivating? Is it practical? Okay, great. So can I ask you, Anjali, is it going okay so far? Can you unmute and answer, Anjali?
Yes, sir. It is good.
Naman, Babita, is it going fine?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, great. Bhuvnesh, is it going okay? Komal, Ashish Pandey, is it going fine? I really don't know where these people are. Nitesh,
Yes,
Naman,
sir. Going good. Yes, sir.
Nitesh, Naman, is it going fine?
Yes, sir. Absolutely fine.
Okay.
Yes, sir,
So I'm
fine.
moving on to my next presentation for about 10-15 minutes, and then we'll take a break for about 5 minutes and move on to actual case studies. So I'm going to present for the next 10-15 minutes. I'm opening my share screen again, and we look at. Can all of you see this, ladies and gentlemen?
Yes, sir.
Is it big enough? Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fantastic. This is something of the Harvard Business School, which I thought I'll refer to in general to make you understand as to what this simply signifies. What is the case method? The case method is not only the practical way to learn managerial skills, it is exciting and fun, but it can be very confusing. Wow, it has said it's exciting and fun, but it says it can be very confusing. This brief note is designed to remove the confusion by explaining how the case method works and then to suggest how you can get the most out of it. So use the case based method, which is exciting and fun, and how do you get the most out of it? Don't be confused. Simply stated, the case method calls for discussion of real life situations. I repeat again and again, it talks about real life situations that business executives have faced. Case writers, as good reporters, have written up these situations to present you with the information available to the executives involved. As you review the cases, you will put yourself in the shoes of the managers, analyze situations, decide what you would do, and come to class and present your conclusions here. So, analyze situation point number one, come out with solutions and present the solutions. So, case calls for real life situations. So, case writers collect data on real life situation, what the company went through. And as you review the case, when you go through it, chronological events, and when you look at it in different parts, each one of you look at the situations, decide what you would be doing, and support it with conclusions. Now, how cases help you learn? Cases help you sharpen your analytical skills. One, it really helps you to strengthen your analytical skills. What is analytical skills? Analytical skills is something where you improve your power to analyze something better and more prudently. That is called the analysis skills, because you must produce quantitative and qualitative evidence to support your recommendations. Now, remember one thing: any teacher in front of whom you're presenting in a group may challenge you. This is a big question mark. This could be a big question mark, as you could well see instructors challenging you. Why have you made this solution? You should be able to defend your answer. So, A, you're thinking better, as I told you. B, you're analyzing better and you're presenting it. And instructors, make sure you can overcome the objections. Whatever you're presenting, make sure you have justification to that. Because if instructor raises any questions or they challenge your assumptions, make sure you're able to give concrete answers. Because case studies cut across a range of organization and situations, they provide you with an exposure far greater than you're likely to experience. They permit you to build knowledge. So this is point number 3. They make you analyze better. They make you think better. They enhance your knowledge through the application quotient. Next, you will quickly recognize that the problems you face as a manager are not unique to one organization. So you look at problem analysis. So analytical skills, solution designing skill, problem identification skills, you will need to identify all. This is all what you learn in a case study. What are the problems? What could be solutions? You make a presentation, you think logically, and then it comes across diverse situations. So it's a great part of linking it to whatever you studied in your various courses. Class discussions are important. Participants bring to bear their expertise, observations. What each member brings to identify the certain problems in a case, analyze them, and propose the solution. Now, this is group-based, but individual skills are equally important. Your classmates and you will differ significantly in what's important and how to deal with them, and therefore you need an interpersonal group coordination here. So you really need to understand what the problems are, what could be solutions. There could be divergence of views. See how you can all work in a group really well. Maybe each of the participants, the role is really well cut out, and you try and see how well you can define each of these scores. Right. The best and most important benefit of using cases is to identify the real problem. This is an important quote. 90% of the task of a top manager is to ask questions. Answers are easy to find, but asking good questions is the most critical skill. So the most important part which helps us managers is to identify the real problem. What are the questions you're asking yourself? And the discussion questions basically are aimed to you to identify by referring to the case, which refer to certain aspects of the case. What really are the problems for which you need to find solutions? So A, problems, ask questions, and what could be fantastic solutions to this? A final benefit that the faculty seeks to invigorate is the sense of fun and excitement that comes with being a manager. You will sense once again that being a manager is a great challenge, intellectually, politically, and solution. So in short, the case method is a way of learning by doing, not a learning by listening or looking at theories, but by doing. Ask yourself questions, refer to the discussion questions, see what the problems are. In a group, thrash out what solutions it could be, and then try and find out how these problems can be resolved. Now, this is something which I've taken from the Harvard Business School, how to prepare a case. So, ladies and gentlemen, in your various cases which you'll be coming across, I'll be discussing this with you in due course of time. You need to realize, how do you really prepare a case? The use of the case-based method calls first for you working individually to carefully read and to think about each case. So all of you read the case separately and individually. One, individually read. There is no proper blueprint of how everyone works on a case study. You can have your own style. But read the first few paragraphs, then go through the entire case, asking yourself, what is the case about and what is the information that is given. So, as I said earlier, read the case thoroughly 2 or 3 times, make notes, and discuss what type of information has been made available to you. Read the case very carefully. Make notes, exactly as I've said here. Write notes. So, A, read, B, write notes, then note the key problems on a piece of paper. Sort out the problem areas, do your analysis, and develop a set of recommendations. Until now, your best results will come if you've worked by yourself. However, if you have time before class, it is useful to engage with some of your participants about the case. This can be done anytime during hours or meals or whatever. In fact, some people like to form discussion groups to conduct such discussions. I recommend everyone sitting here and listening to me today, when you're given a case in a group to work, please have intergroup discussions. You read your case, make your notes, look at this problem, and then, but again, spread your expertise in a discussion question. You say, you look at this part, I look at this part, you look at this part, and let's integrate and bring them together to see the best possible solutions that you're recommending. So one, read, make notes, identify problems, analyze situations, and make your recommendations. So instead of doing it everything by yourself, please engage in discussions with your fellow participants. The purpose of this discussion, but it helps members amplify their own thinking. You probably learn. It's not to have only a consensus, but probably you learn better. Now, what happens in a class typically? In class, your instructor usually will let members discuss the way they wish. So the instructor poses questions, people's reasoning, all this is done, and then they try to keep the discussion on track on moving forward. Sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, typically an instructor will listen to everyone's views. Not saying that whatever each one of them is correct, but they could sum up their views. What's the answer? You can have several answers. So, as you say in business, there is no perfect answer, but we try and find out the best answers that could possibly be fitting for the case. Lastly, I would like to discuss, ladies and gentlemen, how you can get the most out of the process. There are 9 things which I want to discuss with you in the case study workshop: techniques and analysis, case study analysis, techniques and presentations. Firstly, prepare. Individually prepare first, read through it, be an active participant. Okay, Arpit, Babita, Bhavna, Bhuvnesh, Khushbu, Naman, Nitesh, Anjali, please remember, everyone in a group, when I do a case study, everyone studies the case. We share it with everyone. Do your individual preparation. Discuss the cases with others beforehand. The idea is that it will not encourage cheating. We don't encourage cheating. You refine your reasoning better. So prepare, share your thoughts with everyone else, discuss the case beforehand, and then prepare. Participate. This is the most important. In class, express your views. Express your views. And you try to get involved. You may be wrong, doesn't matter. Anjali, you may be thoroughly wrong, doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, what is important is that you need to realize that it is one of the forums of discussion by which you make the learning journey more interesting. So prepare, discuss with others, participate in the case study, share your experience. Relate the topic to what you've learned. This is important. I put it down here. Very, very important. Actively apply what you're learning as far as management is concerned. Like, for example, you're learning in business, how can I grow my business? Look at the case and says what the organization could have done to make you grow your business. Prepare, discuss, participate, present your thoughts. Note what clicks. Now, this is a little different because different people have different discussion ways of discussing, but don't worry about it. Try and mingle with your group the way you can. Mix it up. That means give a set of views, not one view. Get to know people outside your class and get to know them better. Use the discussion as an opportunity to discover people with different points of view. Mix up all their opinions together to come out with something very concrete. Try to understand and enhance your own management style by learning, by interacting with others. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would only like to say one thing. You will learn from rigorous discussions and controversy, where each member of the class assumes a responsibility for preparing the case and contributing to the ideas to the case discussions. And this can be highly exacting and practically oriented educational experience. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the word I want you to look at. Practical oriented education experience. Make it as practical as you can. There could be difference of views, but talk to everyone, get all the views together, and whatever we think, mix it all up and present it to make it sound resounding. But the idea is, of course, you study individually, but also, so there's individual work and there is group work, both. So we need profound ideas coming from everyone. Is that okay with everyone?